72%. 72% of advertisers have increased their use of contextual targeting in the past year, according to IAB's State of Data report. Privacy is dying. Cookies are crumbling, AI is changing everything, and marketers are rapidly shifting away from personal data in favor of contextual targeting. So, how can you deliver relevant ads without invading privacy? I'm Benjamin Shapiro, and joining me today is Karel Cooper, who's the Chief Marketing Officer at GumGum, which helps deliver advertising without using personal data. And today, Karel is going to explain how AI-powered contextual targeting can transform your advertising strategy. Karel, welcome to the MarTech podcast.
Thanks for having me, Ben. Excited for this conversation.
Excited to have you here.
Yeah.
Excited to talk about some of the changes in the advertising landscape. It seems like what is old is new again. So let's do a little history lesson here. Can you explain to me the history of contextual targeting and why is it making such a big comeback in today's digital advertising landscape?
Yeah, and I agree with you. What's old is definitely new again, and we seem to kind of go through these cycles in ad tech and MarTech every once in a while. I've been in the ad tech and MarTech space now for over 25 years. Originally started my career on the publisher side, running ad operations teams back in the early 2000s. And I remember at that point in time, contextual advertising being all about targeting based on the URL, maybe doing some targeting based on keywords, right? So for example, if you were at domain.com/autos, right, we were targeting you in the auto section and you became an
Right.
auto intender, right?
Yeah.
Something to that effect, right? So that's
Super scientific.
Yeah, it's super scientific, exactly. And so that is, I think that's really sort of the birthplace of contextual advertising, contextual targeting in the digital world, right? Fast forward to where we are today, much more advanced than that. At GumGum, we have the ability to understand and read all of the text on a page, understand all of the words within an audio file that a consumer may be listening to, or understand frame by frame the play of a video that someone may be watching. And then to be able to use that information to put the content in its proper context, if you will. And from there, sort of derive what is the mindset of that particular consumer as they're consuming that content to then deliver the best ad and message. And so leveraging AI to do a lot of that. And what's interesting about that is GumGum has been doing that since 2009, really, right? So for us, it's not really a new thing, but for the industry, it is.
It's been a minute. When I think about contextual advertising, I don't mean this to be pejorative or insulting, targeting for dummies, right? It's like, okay, I'm targeting sports-related content. I'm going to go to ESPN and try to drive traffic from that site. Well, no, duh, right? The domain has autos in it. That must be about
Right.
cars.
Yeah.
Great.
Right.
Okay, cool. And it's sort of the most basic version of targeting, effective or not, like it's logical.
Right.
And we moved away from it for something that we think is more sophisticated, right? This notion of the cookie-based targeting, I know who you are and what your interests are, so I'm going to follow you around no matter what content you're consuming.
Right. Right.
So I understand that now contextual targeting is different because you're not just looking at basic signals like what is the domain or what's the URL string. You're actually getting more into the content of the page. But I still struggle with what's better, understanding the content of the page and assuming that that's a match for the advertising vehicle, or understanding who the consumer is, finding the right consumers, and then following around no matter where the content is. Why are they different and why is one better than the other?
Yeah, they are different. And I wouldn't say that. I'm not going to say that one is better than the other, right? Just like I'm not going to say that everyone should stop doing all the targeting and dump their entire marketing strategy and just use contextual advertising. I'm not going to say that. What I am going to say is, and I think in the opening, you mentioned a very high percentage. I think it was 79% of marketers say they're using contextual advertising, right? So
72, but yeah.
72%, right? So marketers are starting, they get it, right? And that's one of the trends we're seeing, where contextual is a part of the media mix and should be a key part of the media mix. What I will also say, just to answer your question a little bit further, right? When you can understand the context of what someone is reading, listening to, or watching, right? You can get into a place of sort of, okay, what is their emotional state while they're consuming that content, right? You can get to a place of, okay, if this individual consistently consumes a certain amount, a certain type of content, then you can make some assumptions about that individual in terms of what other types of content they may like, right? I'll give you an example. So we just released a case study for a company called Mars, which is a pet care company, right? They came to us because they wanted to expand their reach and relevance of their sort of pedigree product in the UK and in France. So this is a European case study, right?
Yep.
Based off of the information that they gave us about who their core sort of audience segments are, which are things like um, heavy dog food buyers, uh, conscious dog food buyers, new puppy slash dog parents, right? We were able to take that information, run it through what we call the mindset graph, which is our tool that helps do better planning, activation, and reporting based on all the historical data we have about contextual, creative, so on and so forth. And
Yep.
we were able to come back to the client and say, okay, these categories are great, but we also know that people who, are in these particular categories are also in categories like home and garden, food and drink, entertainment, travel, so on and so forth. And so
Hmm.
we helped them expand their reach through our video product. And they were able to achieve, in working with us, an 89% higher view through rate compared to sort of like their standard activities that they do, right? So when we go back to your original question of, is one better than the other, help me understand where contextual advertising is now. You're right. It's not necessarily always about, okay, we're going to target the auto section. These are auto intenders, but how do we help brands expand their reach? How do we help them reach consumers when we think they are in the right mindset to engage with their ads? So
Yeah.
that's how we've used contextual advertising to further what we thought of contextual advertising as of 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's funny, and I didn't mean to poo-poo contextual advertising, but it was, since it was so early in digital advertising as
Yeah.
the way that we thought about targeting, it seems obvious. Right,
You're right. It does seem obvious, right? And
right, but
my job,
that doesn't mean it's bad, right? Like,
right,
it's
right,
obvious
right.
because it's obvious. You
Yeah,
should target people that, if you're selling auto parts, on sites related to auto parts. And
yeah.
to me, the most interesting thing that you said is the reason why contextual advertising is different than your cookie based, persona based targeting, is that mindset. Is,
Mhm.
I am on a domain or consuming content that is a passive browsing experience or an educational experience that is very topic specific, as opposed to uh you know I'm a first time pet buyer and I'm, trying to sell dog food. Well, if you catch somebody when they're on their like, stock portfolio site, they're busy thinking about their wallet,
Right.
not about how to improve their dog food. So maybe
Right.
that's not the right time to place the ad. I want to talk a little bit more about the technology and some of the sort of level of sophistication that's
Mhm.
improved in contextual targeting. I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about AI in every single
Yes.
podcast. So, talk to me about the benefits of AI. You mentioned you can like understand the context of the page, and talk to me a little bit about how contextual advertising tools have become more sophisticated over time.
Yeah, well, you're right. I mean, AI is at the heart of what we do. It's at the heart of our technology. It's at the heart of helping us understand, like I said earlier, a consumer's mindset, or what emotional state are they in, and how do we help deliver the best ad. And for us, our vision at our company is to shape meaningful connections in a digital world for everyone everywhere, right? And in order to do that, right, if you think about how bold that vision statement is, we have to use sophisticated tools to get there to help brands and marketers accomplish what they need to accomplish. And so, like I said, going back to what I was saying earlier before, right, using AI to understand the entire content and text of an article, using AI to understand the entire context of an audio file or video frame by frame, and then to be able to use that information again to help deliver not only the right brand, but the right brand with the right message, right? When we think that that particular consumer is in a position or in the mindset to engage with that ad, right? To your point earlier, you can deliver ads anywhere. You can buy impressions anywhere, but that doesn't mean that they're meaningful. And as we think about what marketers are focused on these days, right, more and more, just coming back from Cannes, hear over and over again from marketers about building relationships with consumers, making an emotional connection with consumers, reaching them at the right time when they will engage best with our ad. I mean, to me, contextual advertising checks the box on all of those things. And the way we use AI again to help plan, to help activate and report on at the end is at the heart of everything that we do.
Yeah. I'll use a dating metaphor here and run the risk of embarrassing myself because I've I've been married for I think it's been 11 years, so more than 10.
All right.
Uh, eh, right person, right place, right time. That was always the goal.
Yep.
And when you're young, might be the right person, but you're just not ready yet, right?
Right.
Or your life circumstances are different. I'll
Right.
stop with the dating stuff, but it's the same thing with advertising,
It
which
is
is
the
why I'm
same.
going down this path.
It's the same thing. You're absolutely
Y
right. Yeah.
But you're talking about understanding the context of what's on the page, and so how do you understand that right time quotient? Like, how do you know if, using your first time pet owner targeting and getting them on food and wine blogs because you know that there's some correlation and propensity to have
Yeah.
that be relevant? How do you know that they're in the mindset that they're not thinking about their travel, they're thinking about dog nutrition?
Yeah. No, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say it's a perfect science, right? I don't think anything in ad tech right now is a perfect science, but
Truth.
yeah, right. But again, we know through our technology, we know through the different tools that we use that we are right more than we are wrong. And what's great about our technology is the ability to optimize right throughout the life of the campaign, right? Um,
I'm gonna fight you for a second. You're
yeah.
not more right than you are wrong. You might be more right than the other options. Like, more right than wrong is a 50% conversion rate, and if that's the case, you're not talking to me. You're on an island somewhere.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that. But yes,
Alright.
listen, our business has been around for 15 plus years. So to your point, as an independent ad tech company that has been around that long, I don't know too many others. Do you, Ben? Uh,
We're
so
you're
so
you're more right than other people
there you
are
go.
right.
There you go.
Tell me about some of the trends in contextual advertising that marketers should be aware of, matching propensity to buy and mindset and
Yeah, yeah. So one trend, and you mentioned it earlier again, 72%. I got it right this time, right?
Yep.
We are seeing that trending where more and more marketers, again, as they think about um, building lasting relationships with consumers, as they think about building an emotional connection, they are realizing again that the new age of contextual advertising is a great way to do that. So that is a trend that we can continue to see from a contextual advertising perspective. Another trend that I'm hearing more and more is how do we get better at live events, right? Targeting at live events. And I think contextual also sits in that bucket as well, too. And I think you and I discussed this when we were having a prep call a few months ago about an example there, right? So if you think back to the Super Bowl, if you will, right? You've got the Chiefs and you got the Eagles.
God, I had
I,
totally blocked out that the Chiefs and Eagles played in the Super Bowl because I hate both of those teams.
there you go.
Go on.
I remember it because, admittedly, it's in my notes from our original call. So that's how I remember it, right? All right. So Chiefs and Eagles, right? Playing in the Super Bowl.
Mm.
By the end of the fourth quarter, you've got two different sets of fan bases in two different sets of mindset at that particular point in time, right?
Yeah.
What typically happens, right? What typically happens is when the network goes to a commercial break or you go on, one of your favorite sports sites, everyone's getting the same ad experience, right? And what if you can now say, okay, I understand who the Chiefs fans are. I understand who the Eagles fans are. I know what mindset that they're in. You can deliver the same brand, but maybe that brand is delivering a different message, right? So, for example, if it's an alcohol brand, right?
I
Maybe,
know where
maybe,
you're going with
yeah,
this.
maybe the winning team is getting a message for champagne, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the losing team is getting a message for whiskey, right? But think about that and the different products that you could promote to those two different fan bases that is a similar product, but the messaging is different based on the mindset, right? And that is where we are going as a company.
Okay. So what I'm hearing from you is that the trend that's emerging is understanding the context not only of the content but also of the time and place.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you're able to understand what's happening in the world of the people you are targeting and change your advertising. Should marketers be integrating more
Well,
contextual advertising?
sorry, one thing I want to say there. It's I don't think of it as changing your advertising. I think of it as being more efficient and smarter about the message you deliver. That's how I think of it.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. In the sense of it's more context, right? And that's the
It,
whole nature of contextual advertising. You're
yes.
able to understand the things that are happening in the environment where your potential prospect is consuming the content.
Right. Right.
The There's a lot of uncertainty, and the world in general. I'll
Hmm.
avoid going into political stuff. There's another Ben Shapiro that'll do that for you. But we've got economic uncertainty. There's this changing of the guard in terms of privacy
Yep.
and cookies and technology, and we've got artificial intelligence. Are marketers starting to lean more on contextual advertising as a hedge to move away from this more persona-based targeting? Is this a we're trying to de-risk, and that's why we see 72% of marketers using contextual advertising now? Or is it that this is more effective? I guess essentially, should marketers be integrating contextual advertising tools because you never know what's gonna happen, or because it actually is performing better than their other options?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first, since you started with heading into uncertain times, right? The first piece of advice I have is, regardless of what you decide to do as a marketer, I think the worst thing that you could do is kill off budgets, pull back from marketing, so on and so forth. I mean, there's plenty of data and studies out there that show that those who sort of maintain what they're doing, maintain their brand presence, be there for consumers during tough times, come out of the other end of it better off for it, right? In terms of contextual and is it is the reason why we're seeing the growth because of these uncertain times? I don't know if that's the case, Ben, or not, right? I'm not 100% sure of that. What I am sure of is again, marketers are always looking for how to reach their consumers more efficiently, more effectively, and contextual definitely gives you a way of doing that.
All right, I want to move on to our lightning round where I'm going to ask you some questions about MarTech and contextual
Okay,
advertising in general. Are you ready?
I am ready. Doesn't
All
matter
right.
if I'm not ready. I'm here. Let's go.
No, I'm going to ask the questions either way. So just
Yeah.
maybe I should just say buckle up. All right, let's start off talking a little bit about advertising. Would you choose to invest more in AI for contextual ad creation or human created ads for media? Let me ask that question again. You're an advertising specialist. I want to talk
Yeah,
a little bit about the creative. Are you investing more in AI created ads or human created media?
I'm investing more in AI created ads. And the reason being is because of, um, everyone is being asked to do more with less, right? And if you're going to scale, if you're going to have speed, you have to use technology because your competitors are using it, others are using it, so on and so forth. Now, at the same time, I think there still has to be a human element within anything you create from an AI perspective. So hopefully I didn't dodge your question, but that's my answer.
No, I think that the nuance here is it depends who's on your team. Like there's a
Yeah.
talent question. If you have a world class ad designer
Hmm. Hmm.
and everything that they're going to create is like chef's kiss, wonderful. This ad just not only does it have the right ethos, the creative is beautiful, and you can pump them out and do multivariate testing with this ad. Good for you. That sounds
Right.
expensive. Most of us don't have it.
Right.
But if
Right.
you're running a giant ad agency and you've got designers sitting around waiting for stuff to do, humans should be creating the stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Most of us are making clones off of that using AI, say, "Hey, prompt, pretend to be a world-class designer," and then
Exactly.
giving the concept, and so it's easier to create the multivariant testing, and I think what
Exactly.
matters is you don't know what's gonna work, and so investing all of the effort into expensive human resources often doesn't pay off, and so, to me, it's figure out what type of ads work and then maybe use the humans for polish, unless you, have the luxury of having wonderful designers with extra bandwidth and time that are already on staff.
Right. Right.
I'm going to make you argue against yourself here. Pretend to be a marketing skeptic. How would you argue against the effectiveness of AI in contextual advertising?
Very tough one for me as a marketer. I would argue the sort of understanding the human nuance, the cultural subtext, if you will, of who people are and how they do what they do, and can AI really glean that from understanding the context of what someone is consuming? And so that's where my argument would be, but I hate making that argument.
Yeah, and I don't know if I buy it. I think that's a prompting exercise, right? If you can feed the right context, and we went through this with
Yeah.
we rebuilt our pre-production process and
Yeah.
planning to take all the processes that we had to understand who our guests were and what
Hmm.
they were capable of talking about. It used to be a very manual process, but like I had the process in my head and I look for all of this data. Well, now that I understand the right process and I understand the data sources, I can feed it to AI and it does a better job than
And it
I
and
ever
it does
would have.
yeah, right. And faster too. And I think there's this popular saying right now about AI, which is that um, AI is the worst it's ever going to be right now, right? And
Mhm.
so the point there is that all these tools will just continue to get better and better and better. And I'm sure when you first started the podcast or using AI tools versus the where you are now, I'm sure it's more efficient and effective for you. And it's the same thing related to contextual advertising that's underpinned by AI.
Yeah, and hopefully all the churn that we went through trying to figure out how to actually use it effectively was worth it, but now we have a much more efficient process.
Yeah.
I want to move on to our next question. It's a media mix question. If you had to choose to advertise in three different mediums: display, traditional contextual banner ads,
hmm
podcasts, or videos, and specifically video shorts, which channel are you choosing?
I'm choosing video right now.
Really?
And I'm choosing video because everyone everywhere is consuming video. I look at my own personal habits where the way I consume content today versus maybe the way I consumed it 2 or 3 years ago, it's definitely video first for me. If you look at data with respect to where digital advertising is going, it's definitely trending towards video. Display is starting to trend down as well too. Video is very interactive. It can be contextually relevant. GumGum has a great video offering as well too. I have to put that in there. So I would go video one, podcasting two, display three.
Display 3 is the interesting part to me because I think contextual advertising and I think understanding the context of what's on the page, and
Yep.
maybe the world has
Yep.
passed me by. That's not
No,
necessarily the
no,
case.
you're right. And just because I have display three doesn't mean that I think display is a bad option, because I don't. A lot of our business at GumGum actually still comes from display advertising, and you're right about context. But we also do context around online video as well too. It's a growing product for us. So context doesn't necessarily just have to be display. It can be online video. It can be podcasting as well.
All right, last question I have for you. When you think about who holds the championship belt for advertising, I'm going to give you two camps.
Okay.
I'm going to give you three camps:
Okay.
agencies, brands, or independent ad buyers. Who holds the championship belt?
I'm gonna say brands,
Yeah.
and I'll say brands because the big global brands still carry a ton of influence in every way, shape, or form, right? Those brands are usually clients of the agencies that you just mentioned, right? So in many ways, they're partnering together, or brands are sort of giving direction to their agency partners, right? So that and they carry a lot of influence, and they spend a ton of money, right? So and they spend a ton of money across a bunch of different channels as well too. So my sort of rapid fire answer to you, Ben, is going to be the brands.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking it would have been the agencies because they are the ones actually placing the buys and they're doing it in aggregate. And so they're negotiating down. But you're essentially saying the agency is the car, the brand is the driver. And then
Yeah.
the independent media buyers are sitting in the back seat or maybe waiting for the bus.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say sitting in the backseat waiting for the bus, but I wouldn't, just because of sheer size, right? Like the influence is the big brands, the big global brands.
Well, Corral, I appreciate your insights. I appreciate you coming on the podcast. And it's refreshing to hear a little bit in marketing and advertising. What's old is new again. Contextual advertising, influenced by the new technologies that are coming out, seems to be on the rise and seems like GumGum is leading the charge. Thanks for coming on and being my guest.
Thanks for having me, Ben. Appreciate it.
All right. And that wraps up this episode of the MarTech podcast. Thanks to Corel Cooper, the Chief Marketing Officer at GumGum, for joining us. If you'd like to contact Corel, you can find a link to his LinkedIn profile in our show notes or on martechpod.com, or you can visit his website, which is gumgum.com. He also has a podcast called The Minority Report. So if you're interested in hearing Corel's dulcet tones, check out The Minority Report. And if you haven't subscribed yet and you want a daily stream of marketing and technology knowledge in your podcast feed, hit the subscribe button in your podcast app or follow us on YouTube, and we'll be back in your feed next week. All right, that's it for today. But until next time, my advice is to just focus on keeping your customers happy.